They didn't just trespass on my land. They ripped a trench straight through my grandfather's grave to build their luxury golf course pipeline. I remember the dawn light hitting that raw dirt scar, slicing through the wildflower meadow where I'd scattered his ashes. The diesel smell mixed with the scent of torn sagebrush roots. And I found the bronze plaque with Grandpa Thaddeus's name, crushed flat in the dirt pile like a beer can. When I confronted the HOA president, Vivian Straude, she didn't even look up from her phone. Just kept scrolling, her acrylic nails clicking on the screen. "We followed every legal channel, darling," she said. I told her she'd desecrated a burial site. She laughed, short and sharp. "Show me a death certificate. Ashes aren't legally interred." That's when I knew she'd made a fatal mistake. She saw a middle-aged woman, alone, an easy target. She didn't see the 15 years I'd spent dissecting water contracts for Denver District Court. She didn't know that out here in Wyoming, whoever controls the water writes the rules. And 3 months later, I owned the creek feeding her entire gated community. Eminent domain, it turns out, works both ways. My name is Marlo Coltrane, but you can call me Marley. 3 years ago, I inherited 240 acres of high desert rangeland in Fremont County, Wyoming, that my grandfather homesteaded back in 1948. Thaddeus came back from the war with a duffel bag and a land grant. He built everything from scratch: the house, the barn, that 1952 windmill that still creaks in the wind. He was 1/4 Shoshone, and he knew this land the way some people know music. He could feel where the springs ran underground, which pastures would flood in April, where the soil remembered the old buffalo trails. He taught me to read survey maps at his kitchen table when I was 9, the smell of burnt coffee filling the room, his calloused finger tracing the property lines. "Land doesn't lie, Marley," he'd say. "People do." When he died in 2019, I honored his wishes. No formal burial, just me, the wind, and the meadowlarks at sunrise as I scattered his ashes in our southeast pasture near a sacred cottonwood grove. That land was his legacy, and it became my sanctuary. I'd spent my career as a water rights paralegal in Denver. It was a good career, but a bad marriage. By 2021, I was divorced, 49, and feeling pretty broken. I sold my practice, cashed out my 401k, and came home to rehabilitate the ranch. I started with rotational grazing, native grass restoration, and a small beef CSA. Turns out, the land can heal you if you let it. Then Ridgemont Estates happened. It was the spring of 2023. I was walking the fence line when I spotted a line of orange survey stakes running straight through Thaddeus's grove, every 50 feet like a line of small fires. There had been no warning, no letter, nothing. At the county clerk's office, I discovered Ridgemont had filed for private condemnation 6 weeks earlier. A certified letter had been sent to a P.O. box I'd closed in 2021. A classic move to claim proper notice. Ridgemont was a 2,200-home gated community built on former BLM land, complete with an artificial lake and an 18-hole golf course. They were selling McMansions starting at $850,000 in a high desert that gets only 12 inches of rain a year. Their golf course alone used more water than 40 family ranches combined. And now they wanted a dedicated pipeline straight through my land, claiming there was no economically viable alternative. The truth was, they could have run it along the county road for an extra $200,000, but that would have meant negotiating instead of steamrolling. I tried reason first. I tried talking to Vivian. You saw how that went. So, I drove home that Friday evening, parked my truck, and walked out to the Cottonwood Grove. They'd already staked orange construction fence around 2 acres of wildflowers. The survey line cut right through the heart of where I'd scattered Thaddeus's ashes. When I picked up a cottonwood leaf, its papery rustle sounded just like him shuffling maps. I sat in the dirt and let myself cry for 5 solid minutes. Then I called Hector Ruiz, my old colleague from Denver who specialized in water law. "I need an emergency injunction filed by Monday morning," I told him. Vivian had assumed I'd roll over, that I was just one woman against an HOA with a 3-attorney firm. Her critical miscalculation was not knowing I'd spent 15 years finding loopholes in water contracts for people far smarter than her. And in Wyoming, water law has more trapdoors than a haunted house. That weekend was a blur of coffee and legal pads. Hector worked tirelessly, and we filed for a temporary restraining order, citing improper service and the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, arguing that Thaddeus's Shoshone heritage and the sacred nature of the grove offered federal protection. But at the hearing, Vivian's lawyers presented a county geologist's affidavit stating there were no marked graves, and an anthropologist who argued Thaddeus's tribal enrollment was irrelevant. Their final brutal move was revealing they had already begun excavation the night before the hearing. The trench was open, the cottonwood roots severed. Judge Kemp, sympathetic but bound by the technicalities, denied the TRO. I was ordered to post a $75,000 bond to appeal. Money I didn't have. Vivian walked past me in the marble hallway, her smile tight and victorious, her heels clicking a rhythm of my defeat. When I got home, the backhoe was already there, a yellow metal dinosaur parked on the cottonwood roots. A 10-foot trench gaped through the meadow like an open wound. The foreman, a weathered man with kind eyes, met me at my truck, holding something. It was Thaddeus's bronze memorial plaque, bent and mud-caked. "First scoop," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. I've got orders." The smell of diesel mixed with the torn earth, and the meadowlarks, who always sang there, were silent for the first time ever. I sat in my truck, hands shaking, holding that broken piece of metal. And then I saw it, the survey map on my mailbox. The small print. Water source, Clearstone Reservoir. A public water supply managed by the Fremont Watershed District. Ridgemont didn't own the water, they were allocated it by a public board. That meant contracts, renewal terms, public records. I drove to the county records office and started pulling files. Buried in a 1987 bylaw amendment, never digitized, just yellowed paper in a filing cabinet, I found it. Any private entity consuming over 500 acre-feet annually must renegotiate allocation every 10 years or demonstrate conservation infrastructure matching 15% of their draw. Ridgemont's golf course used 620 acre-feet per year. Their last renegotiation was in 2014. They were a year overdue. In Western water law, that's like forgetting to renew your car registration, except the penalty is losing your legal right to the water entirely. I photocopied that bylaw, my hands steady for the first time in days. Vivian thought she had won by desecrating my past. She had just handed me the key to her future.